may be wondering why my lifeless corpse is just sitting there for this piss-poor attempt of a video introduction.
Because this game bored me to death!
Cast your mind back to this film, Ringu, from 1998. It's a slow, methodical, and bloody good Japanese horror film based around an onryu, a vengeful spirit that uses a videotape to curse and ultimately murder people. If you've never seen the film, you've definitely heard of the girl coming out the television screen, or even seen the actually surprisingly decent American remake called The Ring with Naomi Watts. Just do yourself a favour and avoid any of the American films past the first one. They're just, well, they're either really, really funny or just awful.
In the late 90s, this shit was all over pop media. So, naturally, like anything else, we got a video game. This video game, The Ring, Terror's Realm, exclusively on Sega Dreamcast.
First thing to note, much to my irritation, this is one of the few Dreamcast games that does not support VGA, so we're stuck on good old AV for this video. Yes, I am aware that there is a switchbox trick, but like Skies of Arcadia, this is apparently one of the few games that it just does not work on.
This should have been the first sign that I was in for a shitty time, but for some reason I ploughed on through. You know, I could have reviewed Resident Evil Gaiden, I could have reviewed Manhunt, I could have even reviewed the Amnesia games as Halloween, but no, I had to be a special little boy and do a Dreamcast game. Fuck my life.
If you decide to investigate this tragedy, do yourself a favour and change the camera in the options menu before you start. You'll thank me later. That said, even that won't save you from the dreadful opening cinematic. It's not that it looks bad, it's just that, oh god, just listen to the voice acting.
Like, hey man, what's happening here?
Hold on a moment, sir.
I know the two of them, they're friends. What happened? I don't believe this.
I see.
God, I could have even reviewed Splatterhouse.
Here's the narrative setup. This is Meg, our main character. She gets blown off by her boyfriend, who is in turn killed by an unknown menace. And since she happens to have his exact skill set, she winds up taking over his job at Central Disease Control. It's dumb, and annoyingly the entire story hangs off this plot convenience. Getting set up in her new office, Meg finds that Robert was playing a mysterious game called Ring, but when the authorities investigated it, the program simply would not load and they believed it to just be a computer virus. However, when Meg in turn investigates it, it opens up and transports her to the dark world from Silent Hill meets Time Cop?
Seriously, it borrows heavily from the Konami game. Sadly, it completely misses the point of that wonderful PS1 classic.
The game world chapters are actually set in the same office as the real world, only dingy. This is never addressed. Actually, the story in general barely addresses anything. I'm going to gloss over a ton of it because, bluntly, it's not worth my time to go through every single thing, since everything is fetch quests. Go here, find this, take it here, and then go back to the real world for some terrible written dialogue and teasers as to what's going on, such as meeting with the chief of the CDC. He's clearly got an agenda, scolding you for exploring during what is supposed to be a routine shutdown, and hiding notes on Sadako. Oh, snap, it's finally a tie to Ringu.
Every now and then it tries to do one of these references. The problem is it feels super shoehorned in, like it's really forced. And honestly, with all these kind of weird technological references, the insinuation that Robert died from a computer virus and having a game world and a real world, it honestly feels more like The Matrix.
Yeah, seriously. The silly action? Check. The silly uniform? Check. The blurring of reality? Check. Computer shit? Holy hell, we've got a home run. It's as if the developer saw what was popular in the cinema at the time and, well, just ran with it in a super generic horror game. Between these fetch quests, occasionally Meg has to deal with enemies, and okay, the combat sucks. It's actually more backwards than the original Resident Evils, with every action being slower than a frozen resurrection bug. Also, the enemies themselves, they're just generic animal-human hybrids. Oh, and of course, don't go thinking that's the only problem with the controls. Movement isn't awful, it's tank controls sure, but getting around could be worse. What's more the issue is the controller at hand.
Look, I know I'm beating a dead horse by harking on the Dreamcast controller and all of its weirdness, but this game has some really funky button allocation.
Movement is controlled by the D-pad, which admittedly on the Dreamcast controller isn't the greatest, but what's weird is that when you switch to first person mode by pressing the Y button, you now suddenly have to use the analog stick. Why is there no option just to move around with the analog stick? I have 4 options for the camera, but no analog control option? Christ, and then there's these shitty attempts at building atmosphere. So in the game world, and later the office world, there's no power, and to see, you have to use your flashlight. Of course, it runs on batteries, which are placed around the world, and shockingly, in a neat effect, it will get dimmer as time goes on and the battery gets lower. The problem is that when you're in the dark, the enemies cannot see you, eliminating any and all sense of danger. So if you get stuck in the dark, just fumble. Oh, and halfway through the game in the game world, you turn the power back on, so hey, it's a pointless mechanic.
Much like most of the game, totally, utterly pointless.
Let's also talk about the graphics, shall we? This game is ugly for Dreamcast standards. If this was a PS1 game, it'd be fine, but Christ, take a look here at Crazy Taxi, or Resident Evil Code Veronica. It's night and goddamn day, and keep in mind that these were both originally, like Terra's Realm, Dreamcast exclusive games. Everything looks flat, samey, and dull, even in the Dark World. Even the CG cinematics are terrible. Here's the opening to Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. A hell of a lot less powerful console, but it looks the same, if not better. What is this bullshit laziness?
Speaking of laziness, I should elaborate more on the fetch questing.
I touched on this a little earlier, but I don't think I can do it justice in a single jab. So, here's 2 cracking examples. About halfway into the game in the Dark World, you'll bump into another anime soldier fuck, who tells you that if you don't get the power back on in 15 minutes, the place will fill with poison gas. However, you need a key for the generator, and said key was stolen by, and I quote, a monkey. Naturally, you wander around cluelessly, since you didn't get any hints as to what direction the damned ape went. What follows is 15 minutes of frustration. This open area here? Nope, no ape here. All of the rooms on the second floor? Nah, nothing. Turns out it's in the basement, which you're supposed to go to without any goddamn indication. Oh, and this monkey here? No, that's not the one. So you die, start the nonsense again, and only this time you by accident discover you have to go to a very specific room, again with no indication, and then get the damn key back upstairs for a ghost girl teaser. Is that supposed to be Sadako? I mean, they don't really look much alike. Let's be real here. Moving on to the second example, you are told to get a grenade launcher. Only problem is that the ammo and the weapons are in 2 different spots. The grenades are in the restaurant kitchen, and again are pretty easy to find. The launcher though is in the annex.
Where the fuck is the annex?
There's no room marked annex, there's no obvious architectural annex, so it's all the way in some random corner you'd never look in, because to get there you have to go back into some random shit through the basement, and then up a flight of stairs, and up a fucking... oh, for God's sake, you get the point.
Yet again, with 0 indication. Next time you watch this, do a shot every single time I say indication.
And shit like this goes on and on and on until finally you get to watch the actual cursed film from Ringu on 8mm. Right, so a nice half reference there, but guess what? It goes nowhere. After watching the film, Meg just blacks out and ends up in the fucking Dark World again.
I'm just gonna jump ahead to the final act, okay? And for the record, if anyone really wants to complain down below, believe me, you are losing absolutely nothing of value.
Surprise! Remember my Matrix comparison earlier with Sadako's curse being a computer virus? Well, it's bang on, because it tries to do a switcheroony, with the real world actually being the Dark World that was presented to us as the Ring game, and the Office world being a computer program built by Sadako to spread her curse via, smallpox? Oh, and the purple girl isn't Sadako, it's her mother reincarnated as a child, and holy fuck, look at her face! Oh my god, she's clearly seen some shit. Well, she leads you to Sadako in the real world, who explains with another film clip why she hates humanity. But not why she's a brain in a machine, or that, her curse is born mainly from her spending 30 years in a well. Ugh, grief. Well, we're told to meet Sadako in the fake office world, now to understand her fully.
Or, in reality, just an excuse to have the monsters appear in the office, and an excuse to set up your only two, yes, two boss fights in the entire game.
Oh boy, the chief is evil. I didn't see that one coming. Oh, and now he's a monster. The same exact crappy monster as every other one you've met, just with shittier AI that gets caught on stuff and soaks up bullets. Yay! Ugh. Finally, next door, we meet Sadako, who looks remarkably good for being down a well for 30 years, and is now a redhead? Pardon? How did they fuck that up? Well, it's final battle time on the roof, and god damn it, it's not that hard. It's just that they lure you into the corner with a grenade launcher, and then she traps you. Finally, you get the hang of the pattern, which is simply to hang back, hit her, let her turn into crows of all things, down the crows, and then rinse and repeat until it's done. Upon death, Sadako gives you the cure for the disease because that makes sense, and then, just fuck it. Honestly, as I watched this, it was pretty clear that this was never meant to be a video game based on Ringu, but instead just some other cheap generic horror game that figured out it could sell more copies by slapping a major film's name on the box, hoping that people would buy it regardless.
The thing is, not many people actually got to play this game. It is surprisingly uncommon. I got lucky and found a copy on eBay for about $20. I've seen it go for a bit more than that at conventions, and even more astronomically high prices at retro game stores. And honestly, I feel my $20 on eBay was a rip-off. This thing just sucks. It's not worth the money at all. If you find it for less than 10, you're in the ballpark, but otherwise, just put it down and walk away. Honestly, I feel like I need to save my Halloween somehow. I need to wash the taste of a bad game out of my mouth. And I think I'm going to do it this year by, watching a film. I think it should be a Ringu film. It should be a brand new film, ideally with a guest star and a cat fight. Yes, definitely a cat fight. And, what should I... Oh, you're still here? Oh, part 2 in like a week or two. However long it takes me to edit the second one. I'm just gonna pretend. Yeah, I'm just gonna dream being dead now to the next one. Okay. Okay. Bye.